Very warm welcome to the first day of the second edition of Mastercard's EMEA Sustainability Week 2023. My name is Andrea Prajakova. I lead Mastercard Foundry ESG and Gaming for Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and I am your host today and for the next 4 days. Over the next couple of days, we will be doing a deep dive into circular economy and the power of Web3. We will, try to discover how technology can change behavior of our consumers. We will talk about unleashing the power of educating employees and investors on principles ESG. And on the last day, we will go to space and we will try to unlock the power of ESG in space. So I honestly don't know which of these topics I'm most excited about, but I think all of them are super awesome. So today we will spend our 60 minutes discussing the incredible movement of circular economy and how it is fueled and supported by fast developments we see in the world of Web3. So please use the chat of the Q&A. Tell us how you feel at that moment, how you like the topic. Do you have any questions? So just put it in. We would like to hear from the audience, and any questions we will answer in the end of the session. So I'm joined today by two very special panelists, and allowed me to share a very short story about both of them, because I have short stories in both of the reds. So as you can see, I love color red. And a while back, I saw Meghan Markle to be a really, really incredible red outfit. So I immediately went and Googled it. And I came across a brand by the name of Another Tomorrow. I was, taken away not only by the amazing designs, but by the story itself. When I received this blouse, I obviously immediately took out my phone. I scanned the QR code, and which is part of the garment, and it took me on a journey of discovery as a consumer. First, I went on to a provenance journey to show me where each of these components were processed, and then it showed me a map, how it traveled across the different parts of the world. And also I met, of course, not physically, but virtually, through the website, the family-owned business which made the piece. It was super emotional. It was the entire journey end to end was, really designed to connect consumers with the right set of values and to build emotional connection with the brand. So I'm really excited that today, I am joined here by Vanessa Barboni Halik. Vanessa is the founder and the CEO of Another Tomorrow, an end-to-end sustainable luxury design company and a platform for discovery and action committed to transparency and circular economy. She's also an investor and early stage companies which have strong commitments into ESG. Vanessa serves on the board of Accountability Council and the advisory board of the Carr Center of Human Rights Policy at the Harvard Kennedy School and the Trust for Public Land. Before, this was really interesting, before Vanessa became a fashion icon and obviously started Another Tomorrow, she was a managing director at Morgan Stanley, where she held several leadership roles of emerging markets, institutional securities businesses. While at Morgan Stanley, she served as a trustee on the board of Morgan Stanley Foundation and represented the firm at the Council of Foreign Regulation. She likewise chaired the Fixed Income Philanthropy Committee, during which she initiated and subsequently led a fair mentoring program at Eastside Community High School in partnership with Pencils.org. So Vanessa has a BA in economics from Cornell University and is a graduate of Columbia University Institute. She lives in New York with her family, and she has also 2 dogs. So welcome, Vanessa. Super excited to have you. And my second story is around Rijal. So my second guest is building Souls Free Mates. Such a cool name, right? So you might ask yourself, who is Souls Free Mates? It is a first world community-centric sneaker brand born from Web3, born here in UAE. It's a brand by Chalhoub Group, which is the largest luxury retail group in the Middle East. I personally joined Souls Free Mates as the ambassador. I don't know why they accept me, because I don't even wear sneakers. My kids do, but I'm, so excited about the brand. So I was lucky enough to witness the incredible process, how they built the entire community around Web3, fashion, sustainability, and people who love sneakers. They're really bringing alive a new way of driving responsible fashion, supporting designers, and building communities. So welcome. With me today is one of the co-founder, Rijal. Rijal is a sustainability-driven individual who is super passionate about innovation and the future of retail and circular economy. He has very keen interest in Web3 technologies and, always finds new ways how to drive digital transformation and sustainable growth. Rijal has experience in both startups and corporates, and he always strives to create values for all the stakeholders by making a positive impact on this ecosystem. So great to have you, Rijal. Vanessa, allow me to start with you. You know, your brand Another Tomorrow has a sustainability at its core. Can you share how you started? You know, what did it bring up?
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see from my background, I've done a number of different things in my life, and I've always been really passionate about problem solving at the intersections of disciplines. And I never actually imagined that I was going to shift course from finance into fashion, but I actually took a sabbatical in late 2017, ostensibly to move into ESG and more early stage investing, things that I've been focused on around climate tech, material science, et cetera. And it was really fairly early on that I completely fell down the rabbit hole of sustainability and fashion. And what I found so fascinating is that while people often think about sustainability and fashion as something that has to do with sourcing, and sourcing is, of course, very, very important, it's really a systems problem. I mean, the system of fashion is broken. The economics of fashion are broken. And looking at it a little bit from my lens of finance, where I was actually a trader running trading businesses in emerging markets, if you look at it through the lens of risk, there's an immense amount of risk in fashion. And that's really, I think, a lot of what leads to a lot of these negative externalities. And so I was really fascinated by the multifaceted way that we had to address this problem. And I noticed that outside of the spaces that you would expect, outside of the outdoor space, serving a customer using the product in nature, that I didn't see a lot of leadership in the industry demonstrating a new vision for a new holistic business model. And I think we're going to talk a lot about that in different ways today. And so I really built Another Tomorrow with our incredible team and partners to be that model for the future of fashion. So thinking about not just sourcing, but circularity, innovation, digitalization, things that are less sexy for the consumer, like just-in-time manufacturing, which I know we'll touch on today, really treating clothing as an asset. And so that's how we came to be.
In the introduction, I was describing my personal journey with obviously the QR code and the pieces and how I traveled from where it was made and emissions. How do you manage this? Because I think a lot of times the question in people's mind is, what are the controls you put behind it? And how do you ensure that the data and the source is accurate?
That's such a great question. And it's an evolving area, because I would say that the level of technological sophistication varies dramatically across supply chains. We were lucky as a new brand that we were able to largely build our supply chains really from the farm up. So really from the lens of the impact starting at the raw material origin. So for us, what that means is that we have a kind of a vast relational database of information behind every single item that we make. We've opted not to use blockchain in the supply chain construct just because our supply chains are more various. I think it's easier to do in a single, more vertical supply chain because we know that the level of technological sophistication does vary. So kind of bad data in, bad data out. But overall, we're really excited to see that this landscape is changing a lot.
You touch a little bit on one piece, and which is you went to the source, right? So how do you source the materials and select who you work with? Because that's obviously super critical.
Yeah, one of the first things that we did was before the company ever started, we brought in 2 experts in the field to really create a very rigorous matrix for decision making that was science-based and really best practice across animal, environmental, and human welfare. And so the animal and the human are actually the easy ones. So the human piece, it's a living wage commitment. The animal welfare piece, it's a commitment to not using anything that harms or kills an animal. The environmental piece is much more complex. And so in the case of natural materials, it's about organic and regenerative materials. That does require having connectivity back to the source. Recycled materials in the case of cashmere. And then in cellulosic fibers, we use a host of both certified and now some really interesting algae-based carbon sequestering materials. So it does vary. And then you have to think about that at every step of the supply chain. So the mills that you work with have to be using responsible water and chemical standards, optimally also entirely renewable energy. And so it's really every single step of the processing chain. It's quite complex.
It's really fascinating, which takes me to Chalhoub Group. Rijal, you manage not one brand, but you manage 300 luxury brands in the region. How do you bundle sustainability into the innovation practices?
I think first of all, thank you, Andrea, for inviting me to the panel on behalf of Chalhoub Group, of course. I think at Chalhoub Group, we take innovation 100% about sustainability, right? Because we always try to focus on optimizing our current processes by reducing touch points or create digital experiences, or even like as Vanessa said, create new material sciences with our brands to kind of like create this impact for the industry, right? So it's not only about making more revenue, but it's also doing it better in Chalhoub Group, right? So circular is the group's priority, for a long time, and sustainability has been our top agenda. We've launched last year pre-loved with level shoes, for example. And we've been working a lot of projects this year with Chalhoub Group in regards to sustainability, circular economy, looking into the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, or recycle. So we're working a lot on those projects to make better impacts to the industry. So that's what we're trying to achieve with Chalhoub Group, and that's what our priority is at the moment and this year and the next. So yeah.
Obviously we want to zero down on So3 Mates, right? Which you recently started. It's a full Web3 experience. Can you bring alive to the listeners and to the viewers what the brand stands for and why is it positioned as a sustainable? Because for many people, if you talk about Web3, they immediately think about non-sustainability, right? I think that's a real twist. Can you bring it alive?
Yeah, indeed, of course. Thanks for that question, Andrea. Well, for those who don't know Soulmates, Soulmates is a Web3 native sneaker brand. We're born from Web3 technology, so we've launched recently our NFT collection or a membership pass, you could say, earlier this month on May 4th. It's still open for anyone who wants to join in the ecosystem. But we focus a lot on community, right? Because it's Web3's beauty is the community. So what we've seen in the industry of sneakers is there's a lot of waste, right? 40% of them ends up in landfill. And when we see what we've seen in the industry of sneakers, that they have a lot of excess waste in this case because they want to focus on profit, right? And we want to have this big brands to kind of like not consciously about the environmental impact for just making profits, but just to make sure that they have this transparency with the community. So with Soulmates, what we're trying to provide to the community and the ecosystem is to empower the sneaker designers to build their own sneaker physically with the community, be involved in co-creation to build the next sneaker brand of the future, while we've added Web3 blockchain technology to the sneakers by adding NFT chips for traceability and transparency, to have this limited quantity. And the story that you mentioned, to kind of like go back to the roots, to know where it's coming from, where is it going to, who's the next owner for this, and where it's going to end up to either in a landfill or it has been recycled, right? So Soulmates as a whole, we don't want to position ourselves 100% sustainable, but we try our best step by step, right? By creating the sneakers made out of less material compositions, to make sure that easily separated for recyclability, right? And in the future, hopefully, we may use recycled materials, degradable materials, so that we kind of add more impact to creating this sneaker brand of the future. So that's almost in a nutshell what Soulmate is about, Andre. So
You know, you almost answered my next question, but it went under a little bit. I think one of the pieces which I really like about the, you know, Soulmates is that it's not only about the environment, right? And Vanessa touched on it as well. It has multiple components. It's the social part as well, and equality in terms of, you know, rights and pay. And I think that, you know, you also have much bigger portion for the designers, right? Because many of the big brands, the designers are somewhere in the back, even though a couple of them now starting to put the designers in the forefront, but from a share, the designers didn't get the revenue they deserved, and the other, obviously here you co-create with the designer. So is it something which, you know, you will drive in the future to bring up also these creators and give them a bigger platform?
Yes, yes, indeed. You know, we try to be very be involved with the community. Not that we will you know, choose the next designer, but the community as well will choose the designer together to, you know, hey, we have these 3 awesome designers to be part of the Soulmates ecosystem to drop the next sneaker collection, and the community will then vote for those who has the NFT. Of course, and we provide this platform for the sneaker designer to not worry about you know, the capital to create these sneakers, the marketing side of this this launch. They just have to focus on the creativity of their creations and their design, right? And we want to give this you know, platform to make it easier for sneaker designers to you know, to unleash their innovation and creativity, right? With
maybe we will see also partnership between Another Tomorrow and Soulmates, you know, 2 incredible brands. Vanessa, we heard, you know, a couple of snippets from Rijal around the technology, right? And how physical product production is, in their case, driven by the number of NFT people purchase. I really wonder, and you mentioned it in the intro, that you decided not to use blockchain technology, right? How do you manage production, or better said, you know, that you ensure that you don't overproduce? What are some, you know, we see it in the mass market brands, right? They put so many collections out and there is so much of wastage. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, this is really, I think, the heart of the issue, and really, I think what we've just discussed is really kind of exactly where the direction of the industry needs to move, and something that we're implementing. And I should reference that, you know, for the blockchain piece, it's really on the back end supply chain piece where we see it being more complex within our own multitude of supply chains. But I think on the post-purchase piece, it's incredibly powerful. So for us, you know, we've looked at this in a couple of different ways. One is actually the merchandising mix, right? So for us, about 2/3 of the collection is what we would constitute kind of permanent collection. These are products with 100% product market fit, not a huge amount of seasonality. And so this is what we're really moving into just-in-time manufacturing. So it's really purely on a very demand-responsive replenishment. So even though we're producing in advance of demand, you're tightly calibrating it to projected demand, and you're just really refilling a very tight layer of inventory. On the seasonal side, I think there's huge potential to do exactly what we were just describing. And for us, we only produce very small seasonal collections, really designed to sell out. We distribute it also with our top tier wholesale partners, but ultimately, we would love to be in a place where we're doing exactly that, where we're really only pre-producing to demand for the seasonal components, or at least a component of the seasonal components, because that's really how you make sure that you're producing what the customer wants. So for us, it's merchandising mix with a very tight sort of on-demand replenishment focus. And then again, moving into this really community-driven model, I think will also really suit Another Tomorrow as well.
You know, I need to throw one question in, which just came, you know, I mean, here living in the UAE, we have a platform which is called Onas, which delivers in 2 hours, anything, right? So you order, you go for a dinner today and you don't have something to wear, so you can order whatever, right? How do you see this fitting? Because obviously, I like what you described, because that's how it should be, right? You shouldn't overproduce. But then for get into these big platforms, they require from you as a producer to have big stock in multiple sizes, right? How did you decide as a company to obviously not go with all this demand and really stand the ground of what you just described?
You know, we have amazing strategic partnerships with multi-brand retailers, and we have, I think, a very clear understanding of who we are as a brand and what they need to do to serve their customer. And so we've been able to find to date a way to make it work in both directions. And so now, for example, we can make sure that they have our product, but that they're not buying overly deep to ensure that they have the right sell-through to ultimately sell out of that product, which of course also helps to encourage people to buy at full price. And then ultimately to have them moving into our replenishment program as well. So I think that the systems can be symbiotic as long as you're really operating in a way that can reduce risk. I think the one tension that you're highlighting is the fact that the customer wants it now.
Exactly.
And that, I think, is a cultural challenge in this industry that was not going to be solved overnight. And the plethora of product on the market means that unless it's something particularly special, there isn't necessarily that patience to wait a couple of weeks for something to be made for you. So it's a tension point, and it's one that I think, you know, there's going to be a continuum of models, but they can coexist with one another. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done on all aspects.
Yeah, I think that the cultural change and behavior change in consumers is super critical, right? And it's a lot about education. You know, I have a story this week. Last week, my son had a sustainability, like a conference at school. He's 10 years old, and they've been presenting that for producing a T-shirt, you need 2,700 liters of water. And of course, you know, many of the children were completely taken away. And my kids then came home and started to count the number of T-shirts and how much water actually, you know, we went through in order to have these T-shirts. And I think these small nudges from very young age then maybe refer you for not impulsive shopping for 2 hours, but rather than, you know, invest into the right brands. I want to stand on one point, Vanessa. You mentioned that from a provenance perspective, right? The blockchain technology is something really good. What are your plans to connect your QR codes to tokens, so obviously to not only connect the production journey, but, you know, the proof of ownership, of course, and now you have the resale model, and I think Rijal was connected to it, that you can see where does it end up, right?
Yeah. Interestingly, this is the area where we see the most engagement with our clients today. So today we have 3 live use cases for what we call our connected product experience. One is the provenance journey that you just articulated. The second is utilization of the digital ID for authentication for our authenticated resale program. And then the third is repurchase. And so today you can activate that ID in the form of a QR code, soon to also have an embedded NFC tag, and you can activate the product for resale. And the beautiful thing there is that it's kind of like the BMW certified pre-owned car model, you know, and in this case, you can see exactly what it will sell for. You'll see exactly what your proceeds are. The customer, if they agree with the terms and conditions, gets a shipping label immediately in their inbox. They send it to us. We then authenticate it with that same digital ID. We check the quality. You can get your proceeds right away. And then if need be, the item is clean and it goes up on the website. And the beautiful thing for the buyer is that they can have a commingled basket of product. So they can buy a secondhand pre-loved blazer that looks the same, wearing it 25 times as it did new, and a brand new T-shirt. And so it really normalizes the re-commerce experience. And we've built this entirely in-house. And we've had so many incredible learnings now that this has been live for about a year, that we've recognized that there are some really key pain points for both buyer and seller to really accelerate circularity. And so we're excited to now actually be building some of our own SaaS tool set in-house, with Another Tomorrow as the first customer. And we intend to ultimately have the optionality to help other companies by white labeling this going forward. Because we do recognize that even though we only wear about 20% of our closets, which is a pretty insane statistic, you know, sometimes the seller needs a bit of a nudge. And equally, the buyer has really high purchase intent. So we found some really innovative solutions to address this.
You know, I really like where you're going, because, and I will come now to Rijal as well with this, but, you know, I almost imagine, right, not today, but let's let's say next year. Let's be very optimistic, right? So where you will be able, similarly what Exclusable launched a platform to put your, create your own NFTs. But if I would, in my wallet, let's say my fashion Another Tomorrow wallet, I would be able to interconnect every single piece of in my closet, right? And it could show me and read the data and use data analytics and said, this piece, it's there for 5 years, might not fit you anymore. You might think to sell it, right? So I think that one of the pieces is that because we don't do it often, we don't think about it. So I really like, and I, look forward to see how we will utilize data in the future and this technology, in that space. So, Rijal, you obviously already use tokens today, but it's more for provenance perspective. Can you go a little bit deeper? Oh, I think we lost Rijal. I think connectivity. Yeah, I think we lost him. I lost him from. It's okay. So let's. Let's elaborate on the question a little bit with you. You said something, Vanessa, about which I think it's a real pain point for consumers, right? Especially in the circularity. That if I want to resell an item, normal companies. Oh, Rijal is back, but I will come back to you just now. I thought we lost you. So you mentioned that you settle the customers immediately because you can recognize obviously the ownership, right? And that's quite a big powerful point, because here if you sell something on the resale platform, you have to wait 10 up to 14 days until they obviously check that the piece is authentic, and in some cases you even have to pay for the authenticity check, right? So how can you scale this beyond your brand and enable this white labels to the other brands?
Yeah, what we're building is kind of what we see as like the connective tissue that's missing between digital IDs and re-commerce. And so that's the piece that we're solving. But ultimately, we view that this has to be really interoperable with a multitude of systems, because for every brand, the solution set is going to look different. One of the things that we think is super powerful and really critical kind of technology, almost like scaffolding, architecture, is really having a digital ID. And so there are several digital ID providers, and I think that we're seeing a really nice tailwind to brands incorporating this. But having digital twins embedded in your business model allows you to innovate very, very quickly as this ecosystem evolves, and implement this authenticity check that, as you reference, is super critical. So that's a key piece of the architecture. We are not a digital ID company ourselves. We don't endeavor to become one, but what we're building is intimately interlinked into that, which is something that we already employed. For us, we work with a company called Digimark out of Europe.
Oh, amazing! So Rijal, great to have you back. You mentioned when you describe how you utilize tokens. So in your case, it was more from a provenance perspective, right? How do you plan to use and I mean, in SoulStream it's a little bit easier, but with Chalhoub Group, where you actually resell, you represent the brands. How do you see that you will be utilizing the blockchain technology in connection to the circularity going forward, maybe with level shoes as well?
I think to approach that, I think first and foremost, we are a retailer and distributor. So I think that main responsibility is, lies with the brands, right? I think in regards to, leveraging blockchain technology, we're quite new to that with Chalhoub Group, starting of course with soulmates, right? With our sneakers all being tokenized through NFC tags. When you scan, you have a digital twin. So we'll go physical and then digital. But in regards to in general of product life cycles on the blockchain, of course, we always have that issue of authentication in the secondary market, which we want to implement this technology with pre-loved, with level shoes, for example. But it's quite difficult, right? Because we all have that problem in we still have that problem with level shoes as well, with pre-loved, having counterfeit items in the secondary market, trying to resell it through level shoes. And it's all about from the beginning of production, right? That's why we want to push our brands as well. As I said, it's the brand's responsibility to add this to their systems, to add this to their consciousness, and create this impact together from the beginning of production. As Chalhoub Group, we try to implement all this technology as much as we can, learning from soulmates as well. Of course, our sneakers will be dropped end of this year, and then we will see how it goes. We want to be as transparent as we can as well, to make sure that we have a limited quantity to the amount of NFT that we dropped with soulmates.
Mm. I have a question which I want to hear from both of you, because you touched on it with the tokens and NFTs, right? So of course, if I put a QR code on the blouse, it's the same QR code for every single piece because it's the same piece, right? It may be done by 20 of them, right? But if I have a token, it's a token specifically created for that one single piece. What is the impact on the production cost and on the cost of the item itself? Because ultimately you have to touch every single individual items, either embedded into the fabric or put a token within. Vanessa, you said you think because people think about what does it do to your cost of production and even to the process.
So it's interesting. So even though we're using QR codes today, we actually do set it up so that every single one is exactly unique. So it's completely unique to the item. The way that it's done, and I'll try and be brief about the process, but there's basically an association process. You assign a QR code to the item, it's sewn in, and then you literally with a phone, you engage that QR code and you map it back to its digital ID. So it's uniquely one-to-one. The cost, I would say, on the production process of that specific amount of time and that code is fairly de minimis, but it is an additional step. And you have to ensure that every single factory partner is educated on how to utilize the technology. For us, it was easier because it was a foundational process for us. We launched this way. So every single one of our factory partners and all of our partners who we've subsequently onboarded, we've educated on this process, and it happens at the quality control step. So it's sewn into the care content label, and then it's assigned to the QC step. So it's not tremendously impactful from a cost standpoint, but we're also at an entry luxury price point. So, as a percentage of cost of production, it's not that significant. There's no question that in a more mass environment, unfortunately, costs are accounted sometimes down to the penny. You would be surprised. So it's not an issue for us, but for sure, at lower price points and certainly in CPG, it's been an impediment to a degree for implementation. But I think that the benefits, if you really look at the benefits to the customer and to the brand, especially around managing the full life cycle of the product and the customer, it really pays itself back many times over.
Yeah, I agree with you a lot. So, Rijal, if I look at the sneakers which you will be dropping by end of this year, right? Every single sneaker will have a token, which is, I got 3 tokens. So I will get 3 sneakers. What does it do to your production? Because obviously that's a slightly different product, right? It's not a garment, it's a shoe which you have to embed it inside. How did you came up with the process?
I think, yeah, it is a challenge to, even with our manufacturing partner, right? Because, the shoes are, you wear it, even how you wear it, we need to consider, right? When you're putting it on your shoes, you're pressing, you're bending. Every part of the sneaker is very challenging for us to make sure we place it in the right position to not have it being tampered or broken at the end of 4, 6, 12 months, right? So we want to make sure that this lasts forever. So we tried our best to consider all these factors and make sure that it's placed the right way. And in terms of the cost and implementation or production, I think it is simply what I could say, like it is simply challenging, as I said, but it's doable, right? Like any garments, you can always add it to your sneakers. There's always you know, different types of NFC tags, because we're using NFC that are you know, durable and withstand high temperature, low freezing temperature as well, which we can use and experiment with. We you know, we have every option to be you know, to add to our processes and to our you know, blueprints of making the perfect sneakers. And as you said, each token is very unique, and anyone who scans it will have that unique token with the, you know, which number you own equals, you know, how many is there in terms of quantity out there. That we try to be more transparent to the industry, right? So we don't want to overproduce. We try to as much produce less, produce better, and in the future close the loop for the industry, and trace that as much as we can. And in terms of, you know, our manufacturing production capability, we can do it. And it is a challenge, as I said, Andrea, but
Yes.
it is possible.
Yeah, I think it's moving very much from the, you know, I always compare it. We have you know, a Mastercard. Obviously, everybody knows the card, right? I always compare it to, if you have a metal card, you show how much money you have. If you have bamboo card, you show what values do you stand for, right? So even with the circular economy, this will be when brands started to be recognized that they are, you maybe have to wait for it. Maybe it's only on demand. Then you will represent the value. I think as a humans, it really touches, you know, where you're going and what you stand for. I want to go a little bit onto the deeper into the circular approach, because both of you touched on, you know, where will the product end up in the end? And I think that, you know, today we are, and maybe it's a little bit more, I want to hear a little bit of futuristic thoughts, right? Where is it going? Because today you capture the production, you know, who is producing it, what is the map, where is it going, supporting the designer, sourcing the right materials, enabling consumers to sell it on your platforms. How do you think it will, you know, end up? You know, how do you think, you know, where do you see we will be able to really manage the story to say, you know, that the shirt or the shoe or the piece of furniture, whatever it is, end up being recycled? What needs to happen to have that visibility? Vanessa, can I start with you?
Yeah, you know, this one, I think, unfortunately, there's so much work to be done. You know, one of the reasons why there's so little recycling of textiles happening today is that there just aren't even the municipal facilities, so the city, local level recycling facilities to really manage this. And there's a tremendous amount of complexity in recycling different types of textiles. You know, going back to digital IDs, I think this is a really important part of the solution, because you can embed so much information in that tag that ultimately it can be used for precision recycling in the end. And so I think for me, the ultimate vision is that every single product is connected. In the perfect world, these will be very high quality products, and brands will be incentivized to create very high quality products that will have the longest life cycle possible. But of course, at some point that life cycle comes to an end. And that's where I think the information embedded in these digital IDs, and you're seeing this in the legislation coming out of Europe also.
Right, yes.
Really precision manufacturing. The truth today is that even if every single item were connected and all of that information were embedded, there are not the appropriate facilities or even technology development to recycle effectively every single item, but it's coming. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of investment in this space. And I think that certainly in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to be in a very different place than it is today. And we have to make sure that we're building the technology infrastructure to support that, and also utilizing materials that fundamentally can be recycled. So there's, I mean, I could talk for hours about that, but I'm sure we can pass
But
it
I
on.
like what you said, because I think if anybody in the audience want to start a new business, I think there is a massive opportunity today and upcoming, actually managing that whole recycling process properly, right? And finishing the line, because that's kept not only from a legislation perspective, but really physically being able to then map it back. Rijal, what is your view on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think in regards to that approach on creating this technology for the future, I think I've seen a lot of brands, especially SMEs, to kind of like leverage Shopify and having this blockchain token technology to to easily integrate create new e-commerce to add tokens to every product that comes out from these new brands, right? They're making it easier, and as Vanessa said, there's a lot to do still, right? Even with us at Chalhoub Group, we know we are still experimenting with our own brands like Level Shoes, like Christoffel, trying to create product passport, to make sure that it is long lasting rather than just like a simple integrations to simple experiments, but it is a long-term strategy for them, because at the end of the day, we are putting all this data for the next 10, 15 years to trace, right? And not just for the next year or two. So at Chalhoub Group, we try to leverage as much as we can on this technology with our own brands. But at the end of the day, it's we are a we are primary luxury market leaders, but the brands has to also input all this technology from their side, so that we can also track this from our side through pre-love, through retail, through distribution, and et cetera, right, from our side. So I think, as Vanessa said, there's a lot of things that's still going to happen, but I think it takes step by step, and we're working on that with our brands, with Soulmates, and from what I see from the other partners who wants to try to get into Chalhoub to work on this together with us, to create a nice closed loop solution for traceability and transparency. So yeah, it is a long way, but we don't want to miss out. As you can say, 20 years ago e-commerce was there, 10 years ago social media, now it's Web3, tokenized.
Yes, exactly.
And we don't want to miss out on that, and we want to be leaders as well on that side. So,
and I believe that with what you both said, and with the power of data, ultimately, when you think even from a banking perspective, right? If I start to shop with another tomorrow, and you will see that I buy with you, you might be accredited as a green merchant, right? So maybe my credit score will improve because I'm more trustable, because I obviously, change my behavior accordingly. So I think there is maybe it's, for many people far-fetched, but I feel that it's not so far away, where we will start to interconnect these data sets around your behavior, not only shopping, but living and so on. I want to now go into that immerse experience. We know that, and I don't want to call it metaverse, because I think people confuse it a lot. So let's talk about immerse experiences. And Vanessa, you touched on digital twins, and there's a lot of words flying around. Today, and Soulmates, when you buy the sneaker, you get a digital twin in Decentraland, right? Vanessa, what are the plans of Another Tomorrow to get into the space that when I buy the pre-loved blouse next time, I will have a actual digital skin which I can maybe wear in Fortnite or or to an event in Sandbox or Decentraland, and where are you going with that?
There is so much opportunity. I mean, the number of gamers in our 8 billion population is immense, and I think that you're starting to see this really take hold across genders. I certainly see it in my own household. So it's something that we're really studying closely. One of our principles when it comes to the use of digital IDs and Web3 is that we really wanted to serve a function for our end consumer. And so this is something that we are fundamentally trying to assess for our community is how and when will this add value and on which platforms? And so I think it's a matter of when as opposed to if. But I would be lying if I said that our customers were jumping up and down today, desperate to be able to wear a skin in gaming land, because our customers is a bit more the traditional luxury customer and to some degree the aspirational luxury customer. But we know that these worlds are blending, and we are certainly researching it will be on the roadmap.
I can't wait for it to happen, when I can maybe then rent out my digital piece, like rent my bag for 2 hours for somebody who wants to go for and have an additional income into my wallet. Rijal, for Source Mates, when my sneaker arrives in December, right? How, for people maybe who are not familiar, how would it work that I would receive a digital twin and be able to obviously use it in Decentraland? I think we lost Rijal again. There is a couple of questions. I think if it's okay, Vanessa, there is a question from Daria. She says a lot of sustainable fashion brands are quite expensive and are definitely above the average price point. Are there any ways to make sustainable fashion more affordable and to average consumer, and not only to selective few who can afford buying a sustainable dress for $1,500? That's a really tough one.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really important question because I think access is crucial. I think one element that is just a reality is that in particular, if you look at sustainability and ethics and you extend that into human welfare, it's a reality that many of the clothes that are being made today are being made with garment workers not earning a living wage. And so if you adjust that cost of production, at the moment, it's a reality that the price points are going to go up because our current price points in the market today are reflective oftentimes of labor practices that are inconsistent with sustainability. At the same time, that doesn't mean that every sustainably produced product is a luxury product. The quality of the inputs are going to differ, the manufacturing will differ. And so I think we really can see a continuum of price points. At the same time, I think the most exciting opportunities are really around business models, because if we want to talk about sustainability, then fundamentally we're talking about quality and products that can last for many, many life cycles. And so it's how do we create access points to really high quality product that's much more democratized. And that is, I think, where e-commerce comes in. It's where rental to a degree comes in, although the logistics and footprint of rental can be a little bit more challenging. But ultimately, I look at it through the lens of how do we innovate on a business model level to make sure that as many people as possible have access to really high quality, sustainably produced product. And that, I think, is going to lead to many of these solutions. And it's one of the reasons, I think, frankly, why you see such an enormous tailwind to resale, right? It's like one of the few ways in which one can shop more responsibly, more sustainably at a lower price point as opposed to a price premium. And, it's growing, 10x the primary market. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, I think that, the secondary luxury market was about 31 billion by 2020, and it's projected to be about 51 billion US. And that doesn't include watches, boats, cars. So it's really purely, fashion itself, which is really big. And our region is growing super, super fast with many providers, obviously, with super great service. Rijal, before we lost you, we were discussing, it's okay. We obviously talking about Web3, but we are not on 5G, right? So
I'm in Indonesia right now, so it's quite bad.
You are okay. So one of the questions which I had to you is we spoke, Vanessa touched on how we will be also venturing in the future into the immersive experiences and avatars, right? With your product, when the owners who pre-ordered the sneakers will actually receive the sneakers, they will have a digital twin in Decentraland, right? What does it actually mean? Maybe for the audience to explain, if you have a physical product and then you get a digital product, what does it mean from an experience and ownership perspective?
I think from our market research when we did last year with the metaverse in the GCC, we've seen a lot of people, actually 87%, in the GCC wanted to have a digital twin with the item that they've purchased physically, and whether it is in the central land or is it in spatial, or whether is it Ready Player Me, but you know, we did one project with Level Shoes in collaboration with Lavin for their limited edition sneaker. We had a activation to have a physical curb sneaker on their you know, 10th anniversary. If anyone who buys a sneaker, they can get a digital twin in the central land. Also with Soulmates, you know, we try to marry these two digital, you could say, right? From what we see, we want to tackle the gaming experiences for that community. We look at an example of Roblox and H&M, for example, when they launched the you know, the first collection. I mean, they launched their collection in Roblox. It's not a matter of just experiencing it. It's actually you know, looking at data to see what are the interests in the community of Roblox, those kids, for them to produce it physically as well, to have this consciousness to make sure that they are not just producing something that they are you know, out of greed, but out of actually people wanting to make to buy this you know, clothing or pants or hats. And at the end of the day, you know, we can always add that traceability of authentication with it, right? And I think we need to have these both experiences in the future, especially with Soulmates as well, because then you know, there's a lot happening in the digital world now, although it is still early, but I think in the future it will be a norm for all brands to have a digital twin, right?
I want to go back. I see Vanessa nodding in agreement. You know, I want to hear your thoughts on it, and as well, you know, here, if you think that our behavior will drastically change, like, I mean, average player in Roblox has about 50 skins. I think that's the latest stats, right? And you mentioned that we wear only 20% of our closets. Where do you see that moving, that we will maybe have less, you know, carbon emitting clothes in our closet, and we will have more digital clothes inside immersive experiences?
You know, I think that as the incentive structures just change in terms of how we manage physical product, I think our behaviors are going to adjust also, right? I think the reason why we have so many physical items that are kind of sitting latent are kind of twofold. One is our culture certainly supports people wearing items once, right? And wearing them visibly once, and then that's it. So that needs to change. But also there's just a ton of friction in the experience of re-commerce. And so I think as that friction comes down and people can monetize the items that they've spent money on, I think you'll see that that behavioral pattern starts to shift over time in a very organic way. I think when economics support decisions, they change very, very quickly, especially when it's easy for the customer. And then at the same time, I certainly see, you know, the population of gamers is changing dramatically. And the gender and age makeup has changed drastically over the last 5 years. So I think that we'll start to see this shift as well as we're living these hybrid digital, virtual and real lives. But I don't think that our virtual lives will supplant our physical lives. I think that there are independent forces connecting or addressing both of them. And some of the most exciting opportunities are how we actually connect them from a product perspective, which clearly Rijal is already doing. And I agree. I think this is going to become, you know, really table stakes and quite normal for all brands.
You know, we almost in the end. I think we lost Rijal for the third time the charm. I hope you will be able to come back. Vanessa, you know, this was a really long road. If I think, you know, you came from finance, investments, and into sustainability. What were some of the biggest learnings for you on the way with Another Tomorrow?
It's such an incredibly collaborative industry. I mean, it's particularly, you know, coming out of finance, which it was much more linear, frankly. The amount of collaboration that's required to bring any product to market, let alone to bring a product to market in a measurable, sustainable way and connected way, it really requires an incredible ecosystem of actors working together with common goals. And that's been a huge joy on my end, a huge, you could say challenge in others, but mostly a joy. And I think that we're just seeing that collaboration really accelerate. So I think it's really, the bottom line is, partnership. And where those are done strategically, things can move very, very fast. I look back and it's insane actually how much we were able to do so quickly. And I think, you're seeing that happen with Soulmates as well. So it's an exciting time.
So I have one last question from the audience, and it's you spoke about speed, right? And I think it's perfect. So we have seen examples how generative AI tools can enable end-to-end product design. I mean, Mid-Journey is a great example, right? Manufacturing and sales. So from a sustainability angle, can you explain if this is going to add more to mass production and fast fashion? What is your view? Rijal, do you want to start?
I think it could be a potential risk to add more to fast fashion. People trying to create new brands and all of that through this new AI technology, because now it's easier for them, right? To launch, execute all of this. But also at the end of the day, there's always a good side of this. From an angle of the brand side to get and ease to understand what people actually want in terms of like all this new technology through AI. That's I think to be quite frank, it is something that is a risk, but it can be controlled. But it is unpredictable at the moment, in my opinion.
Great, Vanessa.
I think it's a great opportunity to really bring more data into the production process. And from that standpoint, I'm actually quite optimistic, because so much of what we produce is really an if you build it, they will come hypothesis that's disconnected from what the end user wants. And so I'm optimistic that these new tools on the AI side will actually allow us to create much closer to what is actually demanded, and really actually reduce the prototyping waste that happens as well. So I think that would be my more sanguine approach, but for sure, anything that makes more easier to produce is also a big risk in a market that's already flooded with too much product. So we'll see what wins out, but I hope that the data side of the equation and the community side of the equation is really the force that takes the greatest effect.
Yeah, one of the future scenarios could be to have, in the morning you walk in and there is a 3D printer in your closet, and you 3D print your shoes, but maybe the shoes are made out of eatable materials which your dog can have for dinner, right? So I think that there is so much of innovation yet to come. Maybe there will be bigger production of items, but the materials which will be used could be then reused in a completely different way, which was originally not intended, right? So I think that there is, I like, there is what Vanessa said, there is a positive scenario, and it's really what we will do with it as human beings. We are at the end of the session. It was an absolute joy having you today. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you, Rijal, for joining the Mastercard Day 1 of Sustainability Week 2023. I'm sure that I'm speaking for everybody that we wish, both your brands and super success. It's great to see such a drive towards sustainability, responsible consumerism, and creating a great user experiences. We will be tomorrow here back at 4 p.m. And we will be joined by Matthias Wingström, the CEO of Duconomy, and Johan Heminger, which is a COO and co-founder of Dreams, to discuss how technology became the driver of sustainable choices. With that, my name is Andrea Pražáková. It was a great honor to host you today, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.